policy and oversee communications.
So if you said 10 additional, and then so with you three, that'd be like 13, 12, 13.
About,
Okay, you oversee all those people?
yes, sir.
Okay. Who do you take direction from today?
I work for the Republican Caucus in the state of the Ohio House,
Okay, so you're paid by,
the state of Ohio.
at the time of the 2020 campaign, I think people said the Republican caucus was called is that,
So
okay, I want
I'm going to
to,
clarify,
Please do.
there is a distinction between a political caucus and the official side caucus. So moving forward, if we can just make sure that there's a differentiation.
okay, so I just want to be clarified, you are an employee of basically the House of Representatives or like the political, like what's nowadays, the House of Representatives,
Yes.
okay? So you work for the state effectively. Okay. As do all those 12 to 13 people, including RJ Mancini and Tommy Rolfe, all work for the state.
Yes, sir.
Okay, when you left, when did that begin? When did you begin that job?
January of this year.
What did you do between July 21st, 2020 and January of this year?
I worked on a number of a few political campaigns, both on directly for candidates on outside efforts. And then I also most recently worked for a national media firm.
A political national media firm or just a regular, like?
Public affairs and political.
Okay, so, okay, not doing commercials for Tide Soap or something like that. Not doing commercials for Tide detergent or something like that, political.
I think you would appreciate that business, or they would appreciate that business, but no, I was not working for Tide.
Okay, so you were involved in how do you describe the policy and political?
Public affairs and political political initiatives.
Okay, and what about Stephen Caraway? Do you keep contact with Stephen Caraway?
Yes,
Okay, in what capacity?
that's friends.
Okay, so not that he works in the same organization.
Certainly doesn't work in the same organization, but our work somewhat intersects just through the public arena.
Okay, so, we've mentioned a few people, Anna Lippincott, you keep in touch with. You, Tommy Rolfe, keep in touch with, work with him. Steve Caraway, keep in touch with his friends. Jeff Longstrip, don't keep in touch with, or keep in touch with, and you work together. And there, beyond those people, who else was, was Constant Content or JPL contractors or employees that you're aware of?
I didn't speak to them.
Do you know any other people who were Constant Content or JPL employees that you interacted with or contractors?
As previously stated, I did not. I don't have a list of individuals.
But you certainly should remember, were there other individuals?
That's not the question you asked. Like, I cannot speak to the individuals
I
that
apologize if I
other
didn't.
entity were contracted with.
I apologize if I didn't ask the question. Were there other people that you worked with as contractors too, or employees of JPL and Associates and Constant Content, other than the aforementioned people, other than RJ Mancini?
Given the fact that I do not have a comprehensive list of the contracted or employed individuals of either of those entities, nor have I ever seen that, I cannot answer that question.
I'm not asking you whether you saw a contracted list. I'm just asking, I think you would remember, oh yeah, there was Joe in accounting and there was Sally and yes, you don't remember any
That would
other
be
people?
speculation because you're asking if I knew that they were contracted with them. I don't know the answer.
But I said, were you aware of other people that were working as contractors or employees?
I don't know the answer to that.
You don't know if you dealt with other people.
I want to make sure I'm answering truthfully and honestly, and I'm trying to just differentiate between the question because you're asking if I know if they're contracted or employed by.
No,
I
I'm
don't know
asking
the
you,
answer to that.
not what I'm asking. I'm asking if you work with other people associated with JPL or Constant Content, whether their capacity be as an employer or
Oh, these
contractor.
associations with, Certainly, I don't know if their associations are defined by contractor or employee.
Like who? What's an example?
I don't know. Again, I apologize. I don't know if their associations are defined as what you're asking.
I'm just asking, like, Joe worked for him. Yeah, Joe did something, and I had to work with Joe as part of these campaigns. Sally did something, I had to work with Sally as part of these campaigns. Obviously, you had to work with Anna Lippincott, Steve Caraway, and Tommy Rolfe. So I'm just asking, were there other people like that that you were working with within your
It was-
community?
Pretty slim team. That's
Pretty slim team.
Yeah.
Could you name any other people?
a couple of other individuals who worked as campaign managers.
Like the role that RJ Mancini did?
Yeah, I honestly trying to remember full names. I don't.
Okay, so to be clear, your contacts within Constant Content were Anna Lippincott, Tommy Rolfe, Steve Caraway, Jeff Longstreth.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so 4 plus yourself, that's 5.
Mhm.
And we can debate whether RJ Mancini was an employee, it was how he was being paid. But that's 5 there. I'm just getting at that.
I'm gonna object to that comment. There was testimony what he wasn't, and that was that he was not an employee or he was not a contractor
Well, she said she didn't know, so that's the only reason I'm,
previously at that time.
RJ Mancini's not testified here. So we don't have on the record RJ Mancini's status. Yeah. Okay, so, all right, did you, work on mailers for candidates?
Yes, sir.
What percent of your time would you say you worked on mailers?
I have no concept of the percentage of time.
You have no concept of the percentage of time you worked on mailers?
No, sir, I did. Quite a bit of different things for campaigns, including media, mail, just overall consulting. I certainly mail, as I'm sure anyone who's had a campaign can attest to, is, you always hope to be able to hit the mailboxes a couple times, so
Okay,
I processed quite a few mailers.
so did you, how did you distinguish between the work that you did as a 1099 contractor for content versus the 1099 contractor you worked in for JPL and Associates?
It was incumbent upon me to differentiate between the two. Other than, broadly speaking, I was contracted, with JPL for political consulting, and Constant Content was more the media arm, so like, mail, digital, etc.
Did you fill out any timesheets or anything for board?
Oh, no, and nor would I want to. It's quite a bit of time.
I wouldn't even want to fill out.
They would just be,
Okay,
but no, I was never required to report time. I've never been required to report time working on a political campaign.
what were the basic terms of your arrangements? Flat rate, hourly,
I was, on a retainer.
on a retainer? And you had 2 separate retainers, a retainer with JPL and a retainer with Constant Content?
I was on a retainer with JPL, and I actually don't recall if I was on a retainer for Constant Content, but I was given a flat rate in a couple of years.
Okay, so your retainer with JPL, just to be, I'm clear, I understand this, so I would say at this point, largely former consultant. A retainer would be, for example, somebody gives me $50,000. I hold it as a retainer and then I bill them against that retainer for services I'm providing. That's the typical design of a retainer. Is that what you're?
That is not, I would disagree that that's the typical design of a retainer. I've certainly engaged in those types of retainers. I've also engaged in retainers where it's a monthly fee for a period of time.
So by definition, that would not be a retainer. A retainer means you retain the money and then bill against it.
Well, then I
Which is a flat
apologize.
fee. I don't want to think.
That was a misstatement by me that And I've always heard them refer that arrangement referred to as a retainer, so.
So the key thing is you were not given, for example, upfront money against what you drew. You were paid a monthly flat rate by both entities.
At least for, I can confirm with JPL, I honestly don't recall for constant content.
So you don't recall whether you were being paid by constant
I
content?
know I've received payments through constant content. I do not recall if it was a monthly or monthly flat rate or, another arrangement.
What other kind of other
There's
arrangements?
a flat, a sum of a one-time payment to your differentiation.
Like a one-time payment forever? Then you were from 2017 through 2020. Are you saying that your constant content arrangement might have been a one-time flat payment for that whole time?
No, I'm simply saying that, there were, intermittent times where I'd be paid through constant content, but I was always paid a flat rate monthly through JPL.
Okay, so your typical principal payment came from JPL and Associates. And then you think that sometimes you might have received payments.
So I never received payments and I'm explaining that I don't have the regular, I don't have the regular recurrence. Of the
Do you
payments
think you
for
still have the
constant content.
1099s for these payments?
Sure I do.
So I want you to look at a few exhibits. And that blue binder, no, the blue one behind you, over that one, that's, I'll point to that. Rather than go back and forth in the individual, so I'll point you and make sure you find the page that you look for. There's these little tabs, just so you,
Understood.
there's a tab that says list, and then these dates here, you might wonder what they are. This relates to hearings. So we're currently in the we're having the 9/27 hearing. It's when the exhibits got. So I'll point to those tabs, and then page numbers within each of those tabs there. So, on the tab that says, I'm gonna confuse right from the beginning. RESP, that one, the very last tab. Okay, those are the response exhibits, so they're not my exhibits, but I want to point you to one of those. So exhibit 11. In there. It's an invoice from Constant Contact. There's a bunch of exhibits, this one, Megan, looks like this.
It's like, I'm looking at
I think you're looking out of it.
11, which,
You're looking at the ones 11, A, B, C, it's saying 11.
Okay,
Yeah, Ms. Hagan.
Chair, is it possible, you mentioned a PDF, could that be forwarded to you all and forwarded to all of us? It's supposedly easily indexed and for us to review. It's really, I mean, it's like, I'm not even trying to read these at this point because it's impossible to find the right document and not because you haven't done a lot.
Why do you have a memory stick?
Join the club.
Or are you not able to forward a PDF? Do you email?
Not that, because it's too big for an email, plus I'm not
Matter
connected.
of fact, your section, we're not gonna just download it.
Yeah.
That's true.
Somebody has a memory stick, I put on a memory stick and I can vouch for this.
You flash on my.
I have one.
Oh, okay.
Each of us looking at it.
We're past it, the brass.
We're gonna pass it around, but we're gonna be here, we're
We're
gonna be here for.
And then copy.
20 minutes. Half hour.
Yeah.
It's good to be
I was-
interested in that.
Yeah.
Good.
They're not doing that.
No, it's a screw.
Maybe you could just hold up each document so we see the front of the package, so we know where to reference, because it's just, there's a lot going on here.
There's a lot.
And not for lack of I mean, you've obviously compiled a significant amount of material, we appreciate that.
That is for you. Just give me a second, but
In this 11 is totally not what you're talking about. Yeah. And then there's none in 11 in here that I found.
I think he was referenced respondents 11, weren't you, Mr. Higgs?
Yes.
Yeah.
And the respondent section. So respondent 11.
Which
I
is,
don't
the
think, copies are made of respondent.
yeah. It,
So front, my blanket.
actually,
Packet.
it was, it's the last item in the, well, it's at least the packet he gave today. It should be at the end.
Close to the end of it.
Like, what's the?
Yeah, it's the general March invoice from Constant Content.
Yeah, I haven't been able to.
Yeah. It should be about 6 pages from the end of your packet from today. They're completing it.
The new packet is alpha.
I think it's right after the
This is
Goldstein.
all we received, right?
Yeah, this is alpha.
We just had alpha.
Or maybe as you're speaking, you could pass around the document you're referencing if you feel
We
confident.
have copies, so it would make it easier for everybody to find the copies. So they,
Yeah.
but I'm gonna throw this on.
Well, then to Commissioner Hagan's point, if you just hold it up, so at least we know what it looks like, we can thumb through and find it.
Yeah, if it's not easily emailable, that, don't worry about it. I'd rather, yeah, yeah.
This is not the place for it.
Okay.
Not because.
I apologize. My. Sorry.
I think.
Okay.
Maybe for future ones, we can have a projector.
Yeah, actually.
I brought a monitor with me before,
That would
Yeah.
make
but
more
at least for you. It's on there with
Oh,
the
thank you.
bookmarks and if anybody else. So when you open that up in PDF, regular software, it'll have bookmarks down the left side of all the exhibits.
You don't mind, that'd be awesome. I would rather not. I don't know.
It's a pretty big file, so you
Yeah.
can use something like Reader or something like that.
All of them.
I think so. We'll have it by New Year's.
I will try to be clearer is that in Mr. O'Brien's statement, I was referring to respondents exhibit 11.
We don't have it.
We don't have it.
We don't have respondents.
Respondent.
So respond, he referred to it earlier.
But it doesn't mean that we have it.
Well, I think it's important because it's an invoice, it's the invoice that involved in the invoice that never.
If you feel so inclined to share, we are glad to be up there. Go back to what we call. So this is 11, we're looking at 11.
Yeah. It is responding to. It's in the file that I just gave to her. But
Oh, I got it.
Oh, let's look at it.
that's not the right thing. So that's on. Okay, so just to be clarified, there are 13 exhibits from 5-4 that were mine, and they were numbered 1 through 13. Then one of you, I can't recall who, the next time I didn't know what to do, so I made them A. All the ones since the 720 ones that I provided have been labeled A through alphabetic number letters. So we had that slight overlap. And I guess. So I'm assuming, so Mr. Rector, you had made copies of the ones I submitted, but not the ones that Ron submitted.
That seems to be the case.
Ron submitted some, the ones I referred to, it was like at 3:30, 4 o'clock yesterday.
That's only 2 documents, right?
No, it's exhibits. It's 11A through.
We received 11.
Actually,
Exhibit 11 was
response
submitted at
exhibit
the last.
was a last hearing, so that's from
Oh,
his exhibit 11A and 12A through like F or whatever, A through. 11A through G and 12, those are his new ones. Exhibit 11 was a respondent exhibit that was presented in.
Was this the one you're talking about, Mr. Higgs?
Yeah, we didn't receive those. No.
No, I didn't know.
And but your
We had
new ones
three.
today were
I'm
11
looking
A
at-
per sheet.
I mean, is it okay if we just pass this around, so you see what we're talking
But I think in such a proceeding, the commissioner should be able to see the documents. And this was not a new document, so this should have been in your materials from the exhibit 11, respondent exhibit 11 was a document in the last, in July 20th. I'm assuming Mr. Lexer made copies of those, because he submitted one, respondent 1 through 8 was from 5/4, 9 through 11 was 7/20, and then 11A through G, and then 12 was for this.
That's a different one. You didn't print those out.
You know. Correct. We don't have.
I don't want to be, I'm not meaning to be redundant, but, so the 11 that I'm referring to, if you had materials from the last hearing, it should be in. Because it's not new, it's not a new exhibit for this.
So we moved that one set of.
It's not been retained and put in the,
Okay.
in there, I believe.
No, because this was just the stuff that was Mr. Hicks put together, this didn't make the thing most fun. Now that you told me what the date was, I didn't have the date of the hearing. I mean, I keep all the documents by meeting date together, so I have it.
Yeah, that's the one every commissioner in the office.
We haven't passed it around since we only have one. I mean, this is exhibit 11. And you can send that around. People can look at it.
I'm not objecting to the idea that commissioners don't get documents and we're gonna pass them around randomly, so I think we just need to figure out if they have them. I'm not referring to a new document. And by the way,
No, that's an old doc, that's in previously marked
that's from previous hearings.
here.
This, and Mr. O'Brien's exhibits have a distinctly different exhibit type marker on them.
Like this,
Yes,
okay, so this is it.
that might be, see what number that comes up to. Just look at the last one, see what number it is, what the number is.
It's got that seven, and it's coming in both. Hold on. And it's coming where? Okay. So if you have,
But there's a lot of documents.
I go up to exhibit 8.
That was from 5/4.
It's.
So those are his exhibits from 5/4. 9 through 11 were, their respondents exhibits from,
Did he just send?
Yep, got it, guys, our email.
Oh, now we have.
So if you go to the email that was sent last night, it's in that email stream.
Okay.
Sorry.
which,
Oh,
I didn't receive anything last night. I received Phil's at 3:00, 3:00.
Sorry, yesterday afternoon. It's all the same. thing.
That's no good. Is it his,
It's all
is
one
it
big
Phil,
day.
Phil's or Chris's?
It's from Phil. Phil. And then Chris just sent it again, just from us. Straight email from Chris right now. There's a lot of time. It's happening.
but to be clear, you guys have, Mr. Ricker indicated to me when I asked him at the beginning, you guys have a copy of my exhibits
So he put it
and
in.
through like Q.
Yeah, we have a lot of.
Yeah,
them.
so you have this. Okay.
We-
so-
I mean,
This,
Is there a question for Ms. Fitzmartin you can ask relating to exhibit
well,
11?
I think that, Ron, I don't know how you handled it when you were a prosecutor, but I think it's pretty important that people have access to exhibits.
Well, and when I was prosecutor, we
Okay.
didn't have exhibits before the fact finder, before they were admitted into evidence.
Okay.
None of these items have been admitted into evidence yet. I may object to some or all of them. The fact finder shouldn't be seeing them until they're admitted, Mr. Hicks.
Would it be possible for Chris or somebody be run, this is the entirety of his exhibits that you appeared on the hands.
do you want copies made?
Yeah, like somebody could go shoot some copies of these.
Perfect, that would be one.
Now, here's the problem, Chris, I have them on, there are two sides.
Yes, I
Okay, all right.
Okay, so at this point, Chris is gonna run copy that entire exhibit so that we may view these while they're being referenced.
She lost the 5 minutes.
And all it is bronze exhibits 9 through 12.
Yeah, the biggest.
You're not the
Because if you go down, it's like all the exhibits.
And except I don't know.
Respondent exhibit references at least.
How did you get through this?
Okay, so
Yeah.
So I don't now have those exhibits because I just gave it to him. And we take a 5-minute recess so that you'll never read the. Okay.
yeah, thank you. We're gonna recess for 5 minutes. We'll come back at 1:57.
Well, you just sent it Friday, but if you refresh your mailbox, maybe.
No, that's what I'm 1:52.
You're a little fast.
Well, I did, but I don't have the same.
That's what it says.
Reconnect to the internet.
At that time, I assure you that if anybody wants to make a copy of this drive, this.
It's the same thing. That's the
I
same.
can't
That's
get
it.
my-
Yeah,
There's
that's
no,
the.
but there's no, that's just.
That's just one exhibit.
Those, the actual things aren't in the.
Yeah, look. You just need to scroll, guys. Sorry.
I can't even get.
I'm scrolling.
Are you looking at how I said?
I'm scrolling and nothing is scrolling.
Get on the internet. now.
The internet.
Right, because this is
Oh,
new,
oh,
it's all in
I'm
one the
talking
same,
about
that's
the thing
what.
last night.
The thing that I,
No, the brand new
Okay, I
document,
have-
Chris just uploaded, we sent it to all of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's.
Get it in all of our.
if you open that document I gave to him with the PDF, if you open it in Adobe Acrobat Reader, for example, it'll have bookmarks on the left margin for every exhibit. You can just click on 10, respondent 5, it's all right there.
This is
But you can't, if you do it through a browser, it won't do that. You have to like download it and then open it in Adobe Acrobat. Or if you do it on a phone, it won't work correctly.
Oh, well,
I do have title.
yeah, that's the same. You also sent it just from them to reduce confusion, I believe. So we have it in 2 emails back to back, same materials. Does anybody else want some chocolate? Well, I've got some, thank you.
May,
Yeah, let's see it.
that I had no stuff. All right.
And it's got all the food, I have the.
Yeah, the one M&Ms are good.
I know, I know. Those are the protein, cafes.
Okay, through.
Perfect, yeah, it's the exact same thing. I think he just sent it isolated, so we wouldn't be confused.
I never did any consulting with federal entities, but people in the office, I worked for Senator did. Whenever they had something like this, then a federal, there had to be a box for. Yeah, he took us, you were supposed to put like money in the box.
These are free. It's on me.
You're all right.
I try.
Okay.
How do they compare? Who's been on the committee, on the commission long enough to know how they compared up Auto Betty?
Autos were better.
Okay,
His he had healthy options, I do not.
okay.
But that's
why yours are better.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you sound better. I'll help you out.
That's why you don't go shopping at 8 o'clock at night when you haven't eaten, so. And everything just looks really good.
Or that's why you do.
Yeah, well, that's is that too.
Just depends.
While we're waiting, I can't help but she's right. It's all jargon for a consultant is a monthly retainer. Like, that's done all day long. So
Yeah.
it's actually more common than what you're talking about. I don't know the dynamic you're talking about, billing against the retainer. That's like 10% and 90% is a monthly retainer. Just
I
so
think lawyers probably are the ones that do
Yeah,
the
the lawyers.
the
are
money
ones
up front because they have to.
But they have to.
And then bill against it, but,
People like us, yeah, we do engagements all day long on
Right.
monthly retainers, and you're basically buying a subset of general time.
yeah, that's exactly.
Just so you are aware.
Yeah, it's still.
I worked for a contractor for 10 years, consulted for IBM for 10 years, and did 10 years consulting run over myself. So I'm learning something. Yeah, that's my profession.
Well, we did go to Harvard. So.
Who went to? I'd say. I did not say it. I didn't say it. I let it express
No,
today.
Ernie really did though.
Ernie did go to Harvard.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I went to Harvard, but I only about a year and a half.
It's what I did in Vancouver vacation and the page. My son must ago, I got a shirt mask. But I did go to Harvard Business School.
My dad lived in Situate.
Graduated in 99.
Yeah.
They're making a lot of money. I think it's like-
Have you ever heard of Situate?
Where what?
Situate?
No.
It's without, Boston, like right when you go out on the Cape.
Yeah.
There's town there, it's like a Ritchie town with a little bit disorganized.
Oh, gosh.
My dad, the end of the red line. It used to, you had to go to the red line, but now I think it's all the way to Situate.
Oh, very cool.
Over there now.
And we won we had this school that.
Hey, Mr. O'Brien, I know it's been a long day, so you guys need something with substance.
Sustenance.
No, I usually skip lunch, but at least what I wanted to say is aren't there questions that we can ask Ms. Fitzmartin while these documents are getting secured?
Reference to
There are questions that you can ask in the meantime, or whether,
Well, I meant it when he said he would be back.
well, I'm actually a minute over. So he better be running.
And what are we waiting for? You emailed it to all of us, right?
We've all seen it. I mean, it's
Okay.
not like it's a.
The answer to the question,
Service.
with all due respect, is no.
Okay,
Because it's not my fault that the respondent exhibits aren't before you.
okay,
And I think it's only fair that I'm going to refer to one of them that you all have access to.
okay. Really.
And
Okay.
while we're here, what was the exhibit we're supposed to be looking at? 11.
Respondents exhibit 11. Now, if you all, everybody have a PC where they can.
Sandy, how you doing?
Yeah.
You're doing all right with all this. You have the hard job.
You don't have to answer that. It's a March 18th, 20 invoice from Constant Content to Schmidt for Ohio.
Saw that before.
It was at the last hearing.
It's been referred to many, many times today.
No, I saw it earlier today.
Mr. Goldstein testified.
And Mr. Goldstein testified to it.
No, I saw
Yeah.
it,
We have it.
but these things are all out. Records were all trying to furiously download it.
Yeah, it's 198 pages, it's still downloading.
Make notes of it. Thank you for your patience.
Of course.
Other than if you're gonna test me, that's fine. Yeah, thought today. Not that we- yeah, that's fine.
Like, if you told me you like a, you are not director, seriously.
Where the copy machine broke.
No, I don't see. It's weak, and then I end up, yeah.
While we're waiting a second, if it helps for any purposes,
he was getting
there are effectively
everything.
6 containers of exhibits. There's my exhibit 1 through 13, which is from 5 to 4. Exhibits A through M, which was from 720. And then exhibits N through R, which is from 927. Those are the new ones. And they all have the same style looking exhibit tags. The tags on these are distinctly different what that is. And then his are 1 through 8, which are from 5-4. And then 9 through 11, which were 720. And then 11A through G and 12, which are today. 929, whatever it is, 927. So those are the. It's
Yes.
if you download that PDF onto a PC, it will be very, or a Mac, it would be very helpful, because if you open it as a PDF program, it will have the bookmarks. If you try to download it onto a phone or tablet, it will not have bookmarks. But I don't really think that would be that helpful, because it would be very hard to navigate through that file. What is that?
3 more minutes.
At the top, there's one about.
So sit in with me for grant making webinar.
Yes. Grant making or writing, or
It says grant making.
well, I don't have any money, so never mind.
Grant making organizations and foundations. So it's how to, I think it's how to get
Yeah,
target.
if it's,
The grant makers. I'm a grant writer.
yeah, oh yeah,
Right,
it's a grant,
right.
right, yeah.
Now, this says Salesforce for nonprofits, grant making campfire for grant making organizations and foundations.
Entertaining.
You signed anything on a grant receiving, and then I can be part of, how I can sign up to receive grants.
I think you have to master the grant writing to become a
First.
grant recipient. Know the right keywords,
Receiving something.
understand the foundation, have relationships within the foundation.
If you yes, before you actually ever write it.
It's a great point. If you don't have a relationship, it's hard to get in.
Be invited to apply for a grant, that's what's the best.
You can find somebody who has some connection, some way, somehow.
Even better if you can get them to write a grant specifically designed to what you want to get. Basically, set relationship. Nobody else knows that brings us through.
I think this, what you guys are saying is there's like the proposal writing in the business world.
Yeah.
You can get your specifications to be their proposal with them. Somebody's calling and talking about that.
That's Microsoft Teams.
Somebody sees way different.
Is that?
Yeah, I think that sounds.
It is.
It's, so his.
But you have no other team members, so how this is possible?
He's trying to get a hold of us, so we don't know.
Two people in this shop.
And then I was thinking, his wife has the kids out for the little baby guy's birthday. So I'm like, are they somewhere? And she's trying to like, hey, look what we're doing.
And he goes, or
And he goes to her again. She's like, how dare you?
Brutal.
Did you tell Ophelia we miss her?
I miss her right now. I will tell her, I will relay. She's the happiest baby. She's so good.
So cute.
Since we're in the zone talking about the baby, since we're on waiting. I feel like it's unprofessional, but we're all here. She's really cute. She's been holding hands with like the entire family. She wants to hold hands with little Wyatt. And this morning when I was leaving, my husband and her were holding hands because I'm usually the one pulling middle of the night duty, but because I was leaving her, I went in. And so I didn't know if it was like, he didn't want to get up to get a bottle, so he should soothing her, but it was still precious. I can't discount it anyway. It was very cute.
So she's like,
Yeah, oh yeah, she's almost 7 months old and she loves that just companionship of holding hands. So like big sibs and me, like she always will reach and then she just holds your hand. It's so cute.
wow. Well, that's so comforting, not just for her, though, too. That's like the best little feeling.
It's precious.
She'll end up being daddy's little girl.
Right. Well, and you know, I am a big believer that little girls change daddy's hearts and that is just some of the work that the good Lord does.
So then my husband was sorely neglected because we have so
Well,
no opportunities for that.
maybe he's already just how he was supposed to be. No?
That's cute. Really cute. There you go. Then.
All of our neighbors had either all boys or all girls.
Oh.
We only had one kid, most of them only had two kids. But then when we're hanging out, like when I drop them, food on my foot during a high state game, there's always it's when you're talking and they're all like college age now or out of college. It's like, oh, there could be a very different perspective if you have two daughters versus two boys or something, you know.
Oh, yeah, unquestionably. We've got two of each, so we'll get the full.
Yeah, that's, she got all kind of.
That's the reason it's looking.
It's 3 minutes.
You have no questions other than on exhibits 11?
No, Ron, I'm trying to get yours. And all
Well, now-
questions. Get my next line of questions about exhibits.
But there's a following line of questions after the exhibits that you could ask?
I don't think so.
Okay.
We can continue to be right.
There it is.
Sorry, no, it's fast to say.
I'll be back and I'll fix this in.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Then you can break a sweat.
We're back. All right, apologies. So that exhibit 11, that's the part. Can you help me to understand some of the nomenclature on there? Like, what does it mean, like A drop, 218, B drop, you know what those kind of things mean?
Well, I did not prepare, that was not a part of my job description or within my scope of services prepared this invoice. But a drop would be used in the mail to drop to early voters, and a B drop would be to drop to election day voters, to bifurcate the universe.
And then that 20-OH-SCH-002, that's indicative of a particular mailer.
Imagine a mail house. It's a number of different mailers, and so everyone has their own system as to how they indicate the different mailers.
Okay, what was your role what role, if any, did you get with invoicing for content? None?
None.
So I think in your prior testimony, you basically indicated none, but I just want to be clear with you. That, for example, you said you accidentally would get sent stuff that was meant for Anna Lippincott, so you'd have to forward it to her.
Yes, so insofar as I occasionally with a traffic cop for invoicing, yes.
Okay.
I
And then were there
apologize.
things that you submitted to, was there anything that you submitted to Anna for purposes of going on to invoices or?
Not that I recall.
So you were, would you describe your role as it related to mailers as being instrumental?
I wouldn't put stuff of that importance, but I helped write and seek approval
So-
for mailers.
And you work with the vendors doing mailers?
Yes, sir.
And who was the primary vendor doing mailers?
It was called the Mighty Group,
The Mighty Group? Okay, do you know where they're based?
Pennsylvania.
Okay, so they're based in Pennsylvania, and you're aware that because they're based in Pennsylvania, they're not subject to subpoenas of the Ohio Electric Commission?
I did not know that.
Now, can you look at exhibit? It's in this, in my binder, the 723 section, so it's 723 section. But for everybody else, it is exhibit A. The plain and exhibit A. It was from the 723 hearing. It's the same thing we were just looking at with Mr. Goldstein. And exhibit A. Were you able to find that? Yeah, it looks like you did based on where you're at. And then if you flip forward, there's an invoice in there that's for $39,122. But I've provided it, the page number at the bottom, it's at page 3. Do you see that?
I do.
Okay. So that, and I might ask you to flip back and forth between exhibit 11 and this exhibit, so you might want to hold your hand or do something at both places.
Yeah.
So what's the range of dates on this invoice? That's for 39,122. Earliest date.
I'm sorry, what, can you repeat the question? I didn't understand.
What is the range of dates on the invoice that is for $39,122?
Here's on the exhibit that probably everyone's looking at, but it's March 30th, 2020 to April 23rd, 2020.
And then if you go look at exhibit 11, what's the range of dates on those?
Just find that,
Items. But it's gonna be in that last section that says RAFT.
I understand there's just a number of papers. So I'm trying to find it. Okay,
Okay. So what's the range of dates on those items?
it appears that it is August 14th, 2019 through March 11th, 2020.
And then the first thing on there is photo shoot.
Okay,
You see that?
do,
Did you participate in the photo shoot involving Representative Schmidt?
all
Okay. Did you participate in commercial filming with Representative Schmidt?
over the course of her campaign?
Yeah.
Certainly.
Okay. Do you recall that that commercial filming was done with multiple candidates in Firemont County, including Representative Schmidt now in Freeman?
I definitely know, yes, they were both there.
Okay, and, okay, so it looks like you'd agree that exhibit 11 is for activities from 8/14 through 3/11. And
For the document.
for the document, for what it says.
Correct.
And the exhibit in, the other exhibit, is from 3:30 through 4:23. So they're, at least those are date exclusive to each other. Right, one is for earlier and one's for a little bit later, is what it says.
That is what the documents before us say.
Yes. When you look at the $39,122 invoice,
What's the exhibit? So I'm clear.
it is exhibit A.
Okay,
So it's under the 723, that little sticky
Yeah.
thing, it's been out 723A, and it's like the third page of it. So that particular item, when you see like that first line item, 20 OH SH SCH 001P and SCH 002P, what does, do you know what those mean?
I believe that those would be in reference to two mailers.
Okay, so the next line where it says 20 OHSH 003P, 4P, 5P, 6P, you know what that would mean?
To me, those indicate additional measures
How many is it?
following the nomenclature for each mailer. It would be 4.
Are you certain of the nomenclature or not certain?
I mean, it would be an abbreviation. They're not indicated with the full form name.
Did you use the same nomenclature in your work on mailers?
I would reference, it varied depending on what things what an exchange would be if there were multiple candidates or, just one candidate. And when going back and forth with edits. So it just varied.
I'm just, I was just asking with that, about that nomenclature. When you were doing your work, did you use the same exact kind of nomenclature for describing mailers?
For the most part, yes.
Okay, so just for sake of circling that in, if you go and look at exhibit F, so go forward in there to exhibit F. These are just some notes from discovery from Alan Freeman previously that have you on them, and you look like the first page of exhibit F, which what I provided had numbers at the bottom of the page. It was from 723 hearing at page 10. So you see that as 20 OH-FRE 006 for work. You see that?
Yeah.
Okay. And then you flip back a couple pages to page 15, it has 20-OH-FRE-003. It says page 15 at the bottom of the page. There's like little bluish looking page number.
I see it.
Okay, so that's the nomenclature you're familiar with. So if I go forward to page 18, that one is 20-OH-FRE-002.
Yes.
Okay, so that appears to be a very consistent nomenclature that was used on mailers.
Okay.
Correct. You agree with that statement?
Yep.
Okay. Back looking at exhibit A. Do you still have your copies of correspondence relating to mailers from when you were doing this to us? When you were doing mailer work?
I don't know. It would probably vary.
So previously, just a little bit ago, you testified that you had stuff digitally. So that you're finding stuff relating to the feds getting stuff from you, that you probably still had it. Wouldn't this kind of stuff be part of what you would provide to the feds?
Absolutely.
Records about, okay. So again, I'll ask the question, do you think you would still have those records?
Again, probably not all, not comprehensively.
Okay, and then whatever, and then the feds would have all of your records or a subset of your records somewhere.
So,
Would you provide?
well, I know, but I don't know the retention schedule. I assume they do.
Okay, so, sort of, I think if they were introduced as evidence in a federal case, they would still be around, so. Okay. So on this invoice A, okay, that's part of exhibit A. When you did, mailers, how did you, I'm assuming you numbered them, so is it fair to say you numbered them sequentially from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5? For example.
Oh, so I would not individually number these, the mail vendor, it was the mail vendors, like way of, because you track through, it starts obviously at a design phase, and then it goes through the USPS, et cetera, and there's tracking involved. And so this, like I would not individually number these.
Who was the mail vendor that did the design work?
As previously stated, it was my group.
Were there any other vendors, or that was the vendor that did the design work?
I mean, there were other vendors, but for mail, that was the group I would use.
Do you have any recollection of how many mailers were done for the Schmidt campaign? Ballpark, I'm not asking specific.
I do not recall.
So this, if I look at this invoice that's here before us,
Mhm.
it goes up to 6. I guess 7, I don't know what SCH there's, yeah, that line that says SCH 007, the note, but it's just a little different. Would you recognize that as being something different or another mailer just without the dash?
As previously stated, it varied a little bit, so I would think it's safe to say that looks like a mailing.
Okay, so this then would indicate mailers 1 through 7.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Does that sound like you were recollecting your time, that would be a good representative number of the number of mailers done for the Genie Mint campaign?
Stated that I do not recall the total number, but if this is what invoice says, if this is what I have to go on this time.
Okay, so for the campaigns you were supporting, would doing, half a dozen, 5 to 7 mailers be the top campaigns that you were heavily invested in, working on? Would that have been in the ballpark of what got done for those campaigns? So it's not an atypical number, like, we only did 2 for each campaign.
No, sir.
So, how many campaigns were you working with in great detail? Like this, where you were doing, a
At
lot
what
of,
point in time?
what's that,
At what point? in
for
time?
2020 primary?
Well, at that time, I was supporting the political caucus for the Ohio House. And so at 64 members plus open seats, so not everyone was primaried, but I would still help. There's still support to be done, even if you're not facing a primary contest, so varying degrees, 60 to 70.
60 to 70 candidates that you did 5+ mailers for?
No, sir, that's not what I said.
Okay,
I said that regardless of if you have an opponent, there's some supports that are needed if you're running if you're running in that campaign
Okay.
cycle.
so the candidates that were at the tier that they would have get 5 or more mailers, for example, done for them, how many candidates was that? I would assume that means competitive race candidates.
Years, but probably, I think it was 12, 14-ish.
12 or 14?
Yeah.
Okay. The. Look at interview. There's a question about exhibit 11, while I try to find what I'm gonna hear. It says the first date on exhibit 11 is, I believe, 8/19, 8/14, 2019, 8/14, 2019. At that point in time, the people that you mentioned working with, Anna Lippincott, Tommy Rolfe, RJ Mancini, I'm not,
Oh.
that didn't mean RJ.
Certainly, I would not say that everyone was working.
So if you think back, if I'm not, who were the people that were working, you said you started working there in what, 2019, was that what you said? You started, in 2017, okay? Were there any common fixtures out of those principals, Anna Lippincott, Tommy Rolfe, those two, that you would say that they were there for, back in the old days, they were there for more than the primary cycle?
I don't know if Tommy Rolfe worked for us with us at this time.
Okay,
Because he had other employment.
okay, what about Anna?
Yes.
So she's a long term. What about Stephen Scaraway?
I do not recall if Steve was working with me at that time.
Okay. So that goes back to 2017, so 2019, August 2019, when this took place.
Oh.
Do you have any recollection of which of those people was already per se on contract or on the payroll?
Certainly. I want to make sure that I thought you were talking about August of
Okay,
2019. And that's when I said, I know I was working with Anna. I do not recall if I was working with Stephen or Tommy at this time.
okay.
I do not know.
But does Anna go all the way back to 2017?
Yes, sir.
When you were, okay. And what was Anna's primary role versus your primary role?
Anna's role of evolved over
Okay,
time, and I don't know the exact time periods, which, towards the end, period, she was, fiscal, like, office, office manager type of certain handled invoicing. I handled, primarily, the political campaigns and components that, make that up, which is candidate recruitment, getting folks elected.
Okay.
et cetera.
but you can't distinguish how much of your time you spent on that versus mailers or TV work or,
To me, it's an all of the above approach. So no, I didn't ever parcel out, how much time I spent talking on the phone about an issue that has come up in the district or going through mail. A lot of times those, as we're human, those conversations kind of weave in and out of each other.
okay. When you resigned on July 21st, 2020,
Donated association.
terminated your association on July 21st, 2020, was Stephen Caraway still working with the Constant Content or JPL and Associate, or had he left before that?
I believe that's a question for Steve Caraway. I can answer that.
Okay. Were there resources apart from you and Anna, like Tommy Rolfe, that were not there, as long duration of you and Anna? Did they, I guess I'm asking, did they fall off and quit working once the primary was over? Or if the 2020 primary was over in April, or did they keep working? Were they still there in July?
I was still working with those two individuals in July of 2020.
In July, so the primary had been over for several months, so what were they doing?
They were supporting the Ohio Republican caucus, the political caucus.
Okay. Okay. All right. Did you have, so you said that you had nothing to do with invoices.
I would, again, with the caveat of occasionally playing traffic cop.
Because something got sent to you in error that should have gone to Anna. But so the key point that goes off what you're saying is Anna, at the time of the 2020 primary, was the key person involved with invoices.
That's my understanding.
Okay. Did you ever see the invoices? I mean, you see them some now, because we're trying to, but back then, did you ever see any of these invoices?
I do not recall, again, unless, of course, I was sent something that should have gone to,
Okay. And did you face any repercussions for having been associated with the House of Order organizations?
Other than some of your trolling on Facebook, no, sir. I mean, I believe that, I've worked really hard to move forward and move past that. I don't quite understand your question.
Well, I think if I had been involved with a criminal enterprise where people got convicted, it might make it hard for me to get work in the future. Did you struggle?
You followed my career since this, so I think you know what I've done.
I don't, so it's fine. I don't mean to upset you, but, okay, so. But your job now is a great job. Would you describe it as a great job?
Object here, Madam Chairman, we're going far afield on what the issues are before the commission. And I'd move to strike a reference to Ms. Fitzmartin being part of a criminal enterprise.
Sustained, let's get to what we're supposed to be here for. Questions relating to the units can be fighting files.
Okay, so on the mailers then, do you remember any of the Schmidt mailers individually at all?
I remember writing a lot about now Representative Schmidt's excellent record and how she is a person who will fight for the people of Claremont County.
Okay, so you wrote for mailers?
I certainly had a hand in writing them, yes.
Okay, and then you saw the copy of them in the finished products from Mighty Group?
Yes.
And did you play a role in giving the thumbs up to produce and mail?
I certainly helped facilitate the approval of mailers, yes.
Okay. Are you aware of, would you call companies like Constant Content? I think the respondent has asserted that, there's a 10% markup in what the vendors charge them versus what they charge the clients. Were you aware of that or knowing the mechanics of?
I do not for Constant Content, no. Having since worked for a media firm, I know for a fact that this is typical practice.
for
But I
doing
did
that
not
with
know
the
that at the
market?
time.
But
Correct.
my wife is an artist and she would say the same
Great.
thing. Okay. All right, I have no further questions.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Fitzmartin, following up on that last question of Mr. Hicks, Constant Content did not place.
Excuse myself.
I don't think that's my question.
Somebody go hug her.
Resuscitate.
Can somebody go? Nobody can hug her. Oh, those the Bengals, they finally pulled one off,
Yeah.
but you can tell he's injured because of his throw. You need that calf to be full motion and it's the curse of the paycheck.
You know what? Sign me up for that curse. I wanna be cursed like that.
He has his own private chef. I do too. It's me, myself and I.
You
Now
don't
that I'm
need,
down to one, I don't even cook.
you don't need a $50 million a year contract. You'd be okay with just 1 year contract for 50 million?
I would quarterback the Bengals for 1 year, $5 million contract.
Your guy, and then you never see you again. That would be where I would be.
I'm all good. I mean, I'm happy. And then I can hurt anything rotator cuff, ankle, whatever. I'm all good.
Sorry about that.
Ready?
Yep.
Okay, following up on Mr. Hicks's, last couple of questions. Constant Content did not buy or place these ads with the various media, be it radio or TV, did they?
Yes, sir.
That was done by Strategic Media, correct?
Yes, sir.
And the commission that he mentioned is standard in the industry, anywhere between 10 and 15% would have been charged by Strategic Media, would it?
I object that there's nobody's ascertained that the 15 is a normal percentage.
I paid 15 in one of my campaigns, if you want me to represent them to you, Mr. Hicks.
I subsequently negotiated
It's a
points
negotiated figure.
similar to the
Correct.
figures, yes.
But the number is a negotiated number,
Correct.
whatever it may be.
Correct, and I was not part of those negotiations for representativeness campaign.
But it is to the benefit or accrues to the people who place the ads. Correct?
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Longstreth and Constant Content didn't place the ads. Correct?
Yes, sir.
And at least from looking at these exhibits that you have in your book there,
Mhm.
if you could go to exhibit 11 that Mr. Hicks asked about, that's the invoice from Constant Content, March 18th of 20.
Yep.
Correct?
Yes, sir.
And if we look at the invoice for the photo shoot he mentioned, which is respondents exhibit C, that is for $1,500, isn't it?
I'm sorry? I see.
Exhibit C, the invoice from MB Media to Constant Content,
Yes,
that's for $1,500, correct?
that's what it appears, yes.
And if you look back to exhibit 11, the first entry of photo shoot, the same date, August 14th, 2019,
Yep.
Mr. Mr. Longstreth and Constant Content were billing $1,650, correct?
Yes, sir.
And that would be a 10% increase over the 1,500 that the bill was from Envy, correct?
Yes,
And if
that
we,
much I can do. I will.
well, if we if you look at the other entries on Exhibit 11, and then the following exhibits that are listed here. For example, on Exhibit 11B,
Yes,
starting at the top, we've talked about the $1,500 for the photo shoot.
Mhm.
We compare the strategic media invoice for airtime, media airtime. The total bill was 93,556, correct? And that's shown on Exhibit D.
yes, sir.
And that those were split 30, 15, excuse me.
To equal.
And if we look at, again, going back to Exhibit 11B, Schmidt's share of that invoice was $46,000. But the Constant Content invoice shown by Exhibit 11 in March of 18, cable airtime is 51,455.
Mhm.
And again, that appeared to be a 10% markup from what S&P billed.
Right.
And again, that airtime was not bought by Constant Content, it was bought by S&P.
Mhm.
And so it looks like all of the S&P invoices at least
Mhm.
had an across the board 10% markup by Constant Content to the candidate Schmidt.
It does appear that way, yes, given these records.
And
I want to object to the line of questioning because you didn't have any, Ms. Fitzmartin had nothing to do with these invoices. And I don't know, he's just, I guess, trying to get testimony in about mathematical relationships of invoices using her when she had no involvement in the invoices whatsoever.
You also asked me questions about the invoices. They did not prepare. Sorry.
I asked you about,
Positive issue.
So cross, overruled.
Thank you. And again, without belaboring, if we look at the invoice 10-8-10, which is Exhibit 11E, which is the B-roll video that's done when a commercial is filmed. The amount of that invoice from Strategic Media is $12,600.
Mhm.
And the B-roll invoice from Mr. Longstreth in Exhibit 11 is like 6875. Media production B-roll, February 18th, correct?
Oh, yeah, it looks like it, I mean,
So that again also appears to be a 10% markup.
right.
And then finally, the invoice, the Schmidt's share of invoice that's on page 6669, it's invoice 6669, it's on page their exhibit 11F. That is for total of the multiple candidates, but the Schmidt portion of it is a little 24,000. And again, this Constant Content invoice shown on exhibit 11 has a 10% markup, correct, to 26,521.
Math is correct. This is where we get a little tricky, but yeah, it appears that it would be
And again,
aligned with the others.
in the photo shoot, obviously, there's not any immediate time buying, so the 10% increment is just the markup that we talked about.
Mhm.
And the same would be true in the B-roll, because that's a production cost. That's not buying time where you get commission, correct? Nevertheless, there's the 10% markup there. And and I understand from your testimony, you weren't involved in billing or invoicing. Do you know, why there was a 10% markup?
I can speak to constant content, the constant content, I, again, my subsequent role out of production, you know, out of their firm. It occasionally in lieu of retainers or in lieu of, other kind of regular payment, you would just have a, whether it's 10% or whatever the agreed upon, or I guess the decided, plus up is, and that would replace what a retainer would be for services.
And at least from
Support.
your testimony previously, you didn't, luckily for you, keep timesheets as to which campaign you worked on and which item on the campaign you worked on, whether it was a photo shoot or taping a TV commercial or mail or whatever. Long Stress was a general consultant that did a little bit, you know, I run your campaign and includes all the things that are necessary to run a campaign. Isn't that true?
Yes,
And
it was.
and so he didn't separately bill for your time, Mr. Wolf's time, Mr. Caraway's time, or anyone else's time.
Objection. How would she know that? She said she's not involved.
Just not to my knowledge.
Well, but that's not, you don't know the whole, so she wasn't involved in invoicing. So it's trying to get on the record that she's making a representation that it didn't happen.
I'll withdraw the question. If you look at exhibit 11 on this Fitzmartin, is there any specific invoice for your time or any other of the staff's time?
No, sir. Here's the-
Yes. And at least you, it was also not within your responsibility for reporting in-kind contributions to either individual campaigns or other parties.
No, sir, it would be, again, in line with more billing.
And that would be Ms. Lippincott-Hawkins' responsibility.
Sir.
Yeah, I don't think I have any other questions, Chairman. Thank you.
On those invoices that he referred to, the 11s, C through C, D, E, and F. Are any of those from a Mighty Group?
It's not appear, so
Do any of those appear to have anything to do with mailers?
even the descriptions and line items, no.
So your testimony about your own professional experience, would you say that what you've learned is that it's fairly common for for companies that rebill other people's invoices and standard markup for those invoices for profit?
Sorry, I'm a little hard of hearing
Okay.
here.
Mr. Hicks, can you, I think it's for ease of.
Yep.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Maybe I dropped a piece of wood on my foot. Maybe October of. Let me. So, let me just get my find back. So from your, I guess, subsequent experience, that you're saying, you found that it's fairly common or routine to just add a 10% markup on things that are rebilled, because we find.
Again, what that number is it's not a hard and fast rule, but since, it's have learned that it's, practice.
Okay. Did you, what was it, you said like 11 candidates, how many candidates you said got that 5 with 5 with one mailer, seems like 11 as well, you said
That's for a range, I believe I said 12 to 15.
12, 15.
Yes, that's off by 1 or 2, but I think that's what I said a little bit ago.
Okay. So, did you ever see the Mighty Group invoices?
Not to my knowledge. Again, if I was sent, if I was sent to them, or if I was sent them, I would redirect to Anna.
Okay, but you don't recall ever seeing a Mighty Group invoice.
No. I would
Have you ever seen any of his invoices before today?
Certainly positive I was CC'd or emailed them, but I'm not sure I opened up every single email. Wow, please don't tell my.
But I just want to be clear, because there's a difference in saying you didn't. Now you're implying that you received all of them, but only looked
Oh,
at some of
no,
them.
sir. Again, I'm trying to answer truthfully and honestly that again, if I receive them on accident, I would have to redirect and I, did not look at every single invoice as I had stated.
Okay. Did you testify in the federal case?
I didn't.
What was the key testimony that you offered?
I can possibly answer that. I don't know the answer to that.
You don't remember what you testified in federal court?
That is not what you asked. You asked what my key testimony was, and I do not know the answer to that, sir.
It wasn't, what was summary of your testimony in federal court?
Objection.
Yeah, I don't know that follows with the redirect based on questioning related to invoices that Mr. O'Brien was asking.
Okay. I have no further questions.
I have nothing further. Thank you, Ms. Martin.
Okay, so do any commission members have questions in this one? This time, I think, excuse, thank you so much for your time.
I'm seeing these. Yes. Could be serious.
I didn't phone number. You guys, you guys number you want to call him? I'll call him. Okay.
Mr. Mancini, this is Bill Ricker. Please come up to the conference room. Thank you. Yep. Five. You know the what? 14. Yeah.
I got a voicemail. I don't know if it's $1 or not. I'm not gonna try. I'm just gonna listen to it real quick.
Was that, it's not a golf one drawing?
It'd be okay.
It's very good. Morning. Supposed to rain here later today.
Nice not to drive back to Maurice.
It's hard to go out.
It's weird to play again. To extend the schedule. I know.
Yeah, this is size.
Yeah.
Probably should have stayed at the double. I think we're here with that.
So.
We have somebody that's on the it's like he would always take.
Anyway, that's all. Your own backyard.
So, I know, right? Oh, yeah, it's on the backyard.
It was.
Okay. Mr. Mancini, do you want by the,
So Mr. Mancini, thanks for testifying. Sorry it's late in the day. What, at least the good news is you're in the same building.
Yeah.
So could you just, we've met, I think, a couple of times before. one's here and one's not here. But you just describe what your role was in the 2020 primary campaign.
Yeah, sure. So I was a campaign manager, which would just be door knocking, just attending events, just being out there and being the presence on the ground.
Okay. And you were compensated for that activity by whom?
The Ohio Republican Party.
Okay. And what, who did you take your direction from?
Tommy Rolfe.
And did Tommy Rolfe work for the Ohio Republican Party?
He did not.
Okay, who did he work for, to your best of knowledge?
I believe JPL.
JPL and
Yeah,
Associates.
JPL.
Okay. And you are on some, we can look at the exhibits, but just for sake of brevity, you're on emails that are sending out instructions and, things for people to do and so on and so forth. From Mr. Roll, is that fairly common that you received direction from Mr. Roll?
Yeah, so it wasn't email as much as I would ask, he would be the one that would create the walk books. And so whenever I was running out of walk books for Claremont and Brown County, I would reach out to him and say, Tommy, can I get a walk book for Batavia or something? He would provide that, and that was kind of it. And then we'd have weekly calls where he's just like, what are you hearing? What do we need? Like, what do you think you need? What are some areas that Allen's doing really well in? Where's some that you're getting the door slammed in your face, telling you to kick rocks, just stuff like that.
Okay, so the walk books, did you create your own walk books?
No.
Or did he do that for you?
Tommy did that, and I have no idea how.
Did you,
create walk
do you have any experience with creating walk?
No, no.
Okay, could you describe, since I know what they are, but somebody here might not know what they are? What do you mean by a walk book? What's a walk book?
Yeah, so there's a plethora of different apps that you plug in, and so Tommy would create a walk book, and it'd be Batavia, it'd be a precinct 1 or whatever, and it would just have a list of houses in like a certain subdivision, and it would just say, Mr. and Mrs. Johnson are Republican, they voted Republican the last 4 presidential elections, don't vote in midterms. And so then you would just click on them if you door knock, and you just say, went well, went bad, so they're gonna vote for them, or tell them to leave, or anything like that.
So how did you get hired to be by the ORP, or who hired you?
Yeah, so what it was Tommy Rolfe gave me a call and just said, hey, would you like to come in and kind of talk about doing a campaign? You're from Claremont County, would you want to do it? And so that's kind of what it was.
So who then would you say hired you?
I would say Tommy was the one that was kind of my point of contact, so I don't know who necessarily hired me, but it was a group of Tommy, Megan, Jeff, and all of them, but I can't say for one person wasn't the
Okay.
one that said you're hired, you're fired, or
And
anything
then,
like
and
that.
then the hiring of you, that involved an agreement as to what you can compensate?
No, I didn't have compensation at all. I didn't want to do that
So
stuff.
how did you come to be compensated?
No, I cannot recollect in my mind. That was almost 4 years ago, but I'm sure I had a conversation, but I don't vividly remember the conversation about how I would be compensated, but I just knew going forward, I didn't care about it, and I just wanted to do a good job for.
So there was, I thought you left it there, but Ron was still back. That was on.
It's here. She
There's a green one
she
too.
put it there when she went.
There was a green one.
Yeah.
There were two.
Thank you.
And that was only one.
Well, there's one here.
No, that's not it.
That's not
There
it.
was one just like that one, but a green cover.
Well,
You gave me the green one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I bet it's no different than that, I don't think. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so.
Other than it's green.
I like
Yeah,
green,
you
I like
don't-
green more. Yeah.
RJ, you don't like to cover that one, you can. switch.
But I match it with my guy, so.
Because in a second here, I'll refer to a couple of exhibits in there. So who were so your key point of contact was Tommy Roll. And he either did or got and delivered to you these walk books.
Yep.
Okay, were they electronic or paper?
So you could do either or. So for me, it was electronic, but when you would have kind of a group of people who don't have smartphones or are older and just like the paper, Tommy would send me kind of like PDFs and I would just print them out.
Okay, so in that book in front of you, there's a little tabs in the white tab. You might not mean that for you, but the different number of buttons, so that's what a hearing was. So in that section 5.4, go to page at the bottom, there's page numbers, it says page 33, so it's part, it's exhibit 6. Exhibit 6 starts on page 33. Can you see that?
I'm getting there.
Like I said, there's numbers at the bottom.
Yep, I'm on 34. There you go.
But for the commission, it's in an exhibit 6. It's a copy of my amended affidavit. So if you flip forward to that, and that's what makes this one a little confusing, is there is a exhibit, we're not gonna look at the front part of that, RJ. We're gonna look at the page that is page 36, which is sideways printed, which is that statement of your compensation. Okay. So. You recognize, that,
Yes.
the fact that this is a, Ohio Republican Party filing showing payment to you.
Mhm.
And it looks on this, it looks like the payments were from 3 different payments. Do you recognize those?
I mean, it's not like I've looked at them in 3+ years, but I guess it looks good enough. that-
Was that, what would you say, what your recollection is to how long you worked for?
Yeah, so
while you were at?
I went down. The first week in February is the day after the Niners Chiefs Super Bowl, that's how I remember it. And I went until it was when the primary was originally supposed to be. And then once the governor and the secretary of state pushed it back, that was when I ceased to work there and came back up to Columbus.
Okay.
So what was it, March 15th, 13th, I think was when 13th. So that was the last day.
So if you look at that next page, it says exhibit 2 on it, and it's a pay stub, so I think actually you provided.
Yep.
Okay, so it's one of your pay stubs, and it shows, the time period. At the very top, you see where it says period begin 3/8, period end 3/21.
Mhm.
So it looks like during that period, you were paid, during this endeavor, you were paid every 2 weeks.
Mhm.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah, if it says it, yeah.
I'm just going off the dates on.
Yeah, that's what I'm, yeah,
Okay.
I have no
So
reason.
that would mean if I go back and look at that other exhibit, that you probably, the earliest date on there is 2/21. Those dates seem to be the period end dates, if I look at that other exhibit. So so it looks like based on that, if I go back 2 weeks from 2/21, that you started around February 7th or 8th or next. So that's not reasonable.
Yeah, yeah.
When
First week in February.
you
yeah.
did that. Okay, and what did you do? What, you said door knocking, is there any other stuff? You said door knocking and events, anything else that you did?
No, I mean, just try to get a sign placed in someone's yard, but other than that, just say, please vote for Alan Freeman.
Okay, do you, I think, but correct me if you don't remember this, because my memory's getting too after 3-4 years. But I know I met for sure Luke Halper and Stephen Caraway. I thought you had an event at RJ. Do you remember, is that correct, your recollection?
Yep, I was there. I don't own it, in case you guys were wondering, but
You
but
might like that.
yeah, I was gonna say, my parents love going there. No, I mean, very well could have. I don't remember.
Okay,
That-
do you remember going to it?
Yep.
Okay, because like my recollection is that Steve, that's when
Yes.
Steve introduced me to you and
Mhm.
Luke Householder. Do you remember what that event was?
Wasn't it like a Claremont County meet and greet with the candidate or something along those lines?
Yeah, so yes, do you remember what candidate?
So I think I was originally there for Representative Schmidt as well as Alan, since it was all Claremont County, all of their county commissioners could have came as well. And Alan has the eastern side of Claremont, so I think he was also there. And I think it was one of those, Caraway was just like, hey, or Caraway County, or just, hey, just be present, see, kind of see what you're hearing and everything like that.
Okay, so I'm from that area and planned the event.
Was it
And
only
my recollection is that it was only for the western side of the county.
Okay,
I don't know if those people might have attended, but it was actually a forum.
For you.
Is that all getting memory?
Yeah, I mean, very well could have been. I just thought it was
I don't know, some of these other people might have attended,
Yeah.
of course, I don't, but, okay. So you would agree that you were paid, it looks like from about 2/8 until about 3/20, March 20th of that year. And then that was, so was your whole duration of your employment on that about 6, 7 weeks?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you were done with it? Okay. During that time period, which candidates did you work with?
So Alan Freeman was the vast majority, and then I did a week or so with Representative Schmidt.
Okay, a week or so?
Yeah.
With Representative Schmidt, okay. And what kind of activities did you do for Representative Schmidt?
Yeah, so door knocked handful of times at most, and then went to that candidate forum, and then I think there's a central committee meeting in Miami Township that we went to, and other than that, I think that's pretty much it. I mean, could be forgetting one, but nothing is really coming to my mind. It's been 3.5, 4 years, so.
So my math is terrible. As Mr. O'Brien has pointed out. I just want to do a little math here. So if you were from 2 so each of these pay periods was 2 weeks. So 2-week pay periods, 3 pay periods, that would be 6 weeks. Okay, you believe longer than that, or this is?
No, I'm in politics, not math for you.
Yeah, and so that would be, so 1 week would be about 16% of the time?
Yeah, so I guess I need to go back. So when I say a week or so, I was still doing Alan as well as Gene. It wasn't just Gene and then going to Alan. It was doing both at the same time. So it wasn't just 1 week wholly dedicated to Gene and 1 week dedicated to
Okay.
Alan. It was just,
I understand, so, but across that time, would it be reasonable estimate, higher, lower, than in your own words, you spent about 15% of your time on Gene?
I would say lower personally.
What would you say?
I mean, I don't want to guess because it's 4 years and it's a little foggy, but if I percent at absolute most,
1%?
and that's a very, very, very rough guess.
Okay. Did anybody ever ask you how much time you'd spent with each candidate, or to do a time sheet or anything like that?
No, sir.
Did you volunteer for any other candidates during this time period?
No, sir.
Okay. Were you, I believe at the time, I'm sure not now, but at the time when you were doing that work, were you living with your parents at the time, right? Okay. And then after you did that work, your relationship with these campaigns or candidates ended at that March 20th date, or is there anything you did after that?
No, that, to my knowledge, was it.
Okay. Was there anybody else that was working with you? Doing this work?
Well, it was Luke was who worked with me, but was to the end, but to the extent that was working with me.
Okay. Did you, were you aware that, neither Gene Manchin or Alan Freeman were endorsed by the Ohio Republican Party?
I was.
Okay. Were you aware that, you were not supposed to be being compensated by the ORP while working with unendorsed candidates?
No, I was not.
So when did you, but you know that now?
Yeah, well,
Okay, you know that from the
just
Freeman
now.
thing?
Yeah.
Well, didn't that come out during the Freeman?
I mean, could have very well been, but.
Okay.
Rejogging my memory because that was 2 years ago as well.
Okay, okay, no worries, but anyways, what's your relationship or connection at all with Rob Secor?
Nothing, none.
Would you have ever envisioned Rob Secor as somebody who hired you, or?
I don't even know who that is. There was at the time, I know who he is now, but 2 years ago, I had no idea who he
So
is.
you were compensated by the Ohio Republican Party. Did you get a 1099 for that work, or a W-2, or how were you paid? Do you remember?
It was a direct deposit. I don't remember what else was there, but
So that two was on page 37, which we're still looking where we were. You don't remember? We look at, you don't know.
yeah, no,
Whether you got a W-2 or a 1099.
if I'm being honest, I have no idea what they look like. So,
So this would, so it looks like taxes were withheld from this, which would imply that you were on the payroll. You understand the difference between being not getting a W-2 and having taxes deducted versus a 1099 where you have to do your own tax file?
not very well versed in the subject.
Okay. Okay, but you would acknowledge that your pay statement shows that social security and so forth was.
Yeah, I'm seeing it now, yeah.
From your, now they withheld for Columbus. Were you ever doing any work in Columbus? Okay, so I've had that experience a lot doing consulting work, that somebody withholds for the wrong city where you're actually working. You could get that money back. So,
I'll donate it, and that's how nice a guy I am, right?
so, okay. There's that thing in your prior testimony and in some of the exhibits of, you being given, access to manage Gene Schmidt's Facebook.
Mhm.
And I believe Stephen Caraway, it's exhibit 7 in the complainants exhibits. And so it is. I think it's exhibit 2. Oh, no, it's referred to. I'm sorry, it's not exhibit 7. I'm getting the wrong thing.
The exhibit 3.
Exhibit 3 on page 39.
Yep.
Well, that's not gonna be the main exhibit number, but you guys found it, thank you. Okay, so this is part of complainants exhibit 6, we had these sub exhibits in there, so this is exhibit 3 and then exhibit 6. So you see that note on, what was that, February 11th, 2020. So that would have been within 3-4 days of when you went to work doing this.
Yeah,
Were given permission to, you were added on Dean's Facebook page. Did you, I think you testified last time that you didn't actually make any posts on that page.
yeah, that adds up. I barely post my own Facebook. So.
That's probably makes you a better man.
Yeah,
What did you do with the Facebook page?
I
Reply to comments?
no, it was more just checking to see if anybody DMs or anything that would be interesting or valuable, but I didn't respond to anybody, but to the best of my knowledge.
Okay, so like if somebody, like if I would have DM'd, I want to give money to the campaign, you would have been the person to see that?
I think Caraway was also on it, so him or her, or him or myself, but I don't think I ever did anything.
Maybe you follow things.
Yeah, I got the note, yeah.
Did you ever have any discussions about things with Caraway or Ms. Schmidt or anybody on anything?
No.
So,
Yeah, no, Gene.
was there, it would seem like then that meant that there wasn't like some huge activity or something.
No.
Okay, right. That you represented, you door knocked for Schmidt once or twice. The walk list for that would have been provided by Tommy Rolfe.
Yeah,
Okay,
assuming.
and that you estimate you spent maybe 10% of your time, not a lot.
That's the high end, yeah.
Okay, but that's not based on any.
That's not any calculations, no.
Did
No
anybody ever
observations.
ask you for how much time you'd spent on which candidate for purposes of reporting in-kind contributions?
Nothing like that. I know Tommy would know how much I was spending on one candidate or the other based on the walk books, because he would get the live feed, like how many doors I'm hitting and who said yes, who said no, who said kick rocks, never talk to me again. So they would get that. So they would know how much I'm door knocking in a certain area for a certain person with those results.
Okay,
But that, nothing like a timesheet that I filled out every Friday or anything like that.
okay. Other than Tommy Rolfe and Stephen Caraway, was there anybody else that was using you directing as to what to do or where to go?
Nope.
And you would have,
Well, I guess I would also talk to Alan as well sometimes.
Okay.
And he would just kind of be like, hey, my friends are saying to hit over here. Something like that, but.
And you would-
Take direct.
if he said that,
Still talking.
Oh, no, Jamil, no, nothing like, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I just want you to be able to finish the sentence.
No, thank you. No, it was nothing like he was ordering me to go anywhere. He was just like, hey, have you hit over here? I've seen there's a lot of bird signs. Can you gotta hit over here or something like that, but nothing, no direction. I wouldn't say
No, yeah.
conversation.
if that happened, would you then go back to Tommy Rolfe and ask, hey, maybe give me a walk book for over here, Alan says go over here?
Yeah, I would give Tommy a call and say, hey, Alan's hearing from folks. He wants me to hit Mount Orb more.
Okay,
And Tommy would be like, all right, I'll draft up some block books for Mount Orb or wherever.
how did the Schmidt routes that you door knocked, how were they determined? Just by Tommy Rolfe or Ms. Schmidt asked, or?
I I don't think I ever had a conversation with Representative Schmidt on where to hit, or then candidate Schmidt on where to door knock. I think Tommy, at the very beginning, just made a bunch of walk books for every candidate in every district, and then I would start calling him about quite like more walk books once I finished like the list for Allen or something, and then he would provide more, but I never had a conversation about it.
And all of this was an electronic.
Yeah, it's all on your iPhone. It's
Okay.
through an app.
Did you, when you would do the walking that you did for Representative Schmidt? She's represented, she did a lot of her own walking based on a list from the Claremont County Board of Elections.
Mhm.
Did you do anything to confirm you weren't walking the same places that she was walking?
So I think I did not. I don't want to speculate or anything, but no.
And did you ever run into like somebody knocking on the door saying, hey, Representative Schmidt was just here knocking?
Nope.
Okay,
4 years ago, I did it a couple times.
okay. Were you compensated by anybody else during this time period?
No,
Okay. Were you compensated, so you were not have you ever been compensated by JPL and Associates or Constant Content?
I don't believe so at all.
Okay, when you got done with this, what do you do now?
So I work at the Ohio House of Representatives like Tommy as well.
And who hired you for that? How'd you get that job?
Well, so to go back, when I was a campaign manager, I was a legislative aide at the time. And that was through Representative Shane Wilkin was the one who hired me, and I was his legislative aide. And then through the process, I got promoted to policy advisor by then Speaker Cup. So then I was kept on through Speaker Stevens.
Okay, okay. But you work in, Ms. Fitzmartin
Said policy and we
already said you work in the same area she does. And you're essentially a state employee.
Yeah.
Compensation comes from the state. Okay. In between the campaigns, the Freeman or the Schmidt campaign ending. And what kind of jobs did you do?
You're saying once we were told our services were no longer
Yeah,
needed.
yeah.
So I just went back to working.
Between that and your current role?
Yeah, so I went
I've
back.
been a legislative aide, that sort of thing.
Yep, so I was legislative aide, took leave for the campaign, and then once the campaigns were done,
Went back.
my leave ended or whatever you want to call the term, and we would continue to be a legislative aide.
And then you stayed in the legislative aide role until you got into your current role?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, I don't, well, one of the emails gave instruction to get pictures of Gene Smith at an event. Do you remember that?
You still talking about exhibit 3 at the bottom.
Okay.
Yeah,
I don't know, I'm talking about that exactly, but if I.
Uh.
Okay,
I don't remember like taking the photos, but I do. I mean, I'm not disagreeing that I probably took some photos, but
Okay.
I'm not a photographer by any means, so.
or am I?
Yeah, so I highly doubt they used any of them. I just took some of my, I think I had a Galaxy, Samsung Galaxy at that point. That was about 4 years old, so wasn't a great phone.
Okay, that meets the profile on my phone, so, okay, I think that's all the questions I have.
Sure, Brian.
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Mancini, this email about giving your authority to feeling Representative Schmidt Facebook, you testified that you never posted on.
Not to my knowledge at all.
And you worked the bulk of the time for the Freeman campaign, did I understand that correctly?
Yep.
And did anyone ever talk to you about trying to account for your time and reporting your time, either to Tommy Rolfe, JPL, Constant Content, or OROC?
Nope.
So you, I noticed on this exhibit, I might add, which is on page 37, that's table for March 8th, until March 21st, you have that there.
Yep.
Exhibit 2. It says, Ohio Republican Party Federal. Gene Smith was not a federal candidate, was she?
She was not.
And Mr. Hicks did point out that you had Columbus City income tax withheld, even though you had a Cincinnati address and were working in Claremont County. Correct.
Correct.
And don't think I have any other questions. Thank you, Mr. Nancy.
Of course, thank you.
I think I just have one question, so if I can, if you flip back one page from the page, he was having, oh, no, you don't have to flip back, actually, it's right, just the other page to the left of that.
Right.
So I'm just looking at, Mr. O'Brien referred to page 37. And I'm gonna look at page 36. So there it has a reference to where politically your services were being charged. Can you read what committee it says?
All right.
Yeah,
The Ohio Republican State Central and Executive Committee State Candidate Fund.
okay, so that's not federal. We would agree the word federal. would be
Yeah,
there.
federal is not in that committee.
Okay, so maybe it was an accommodation or something. So you would agree that you were charged to state activities based on that campaign finance report?
Smarter people than me would know the difference, so I'm not gonna try to guess, but the committee doesn't say federal, but I don't understand all this very well.
Okay. I think that's all that I have.
Questions from commissioners?
It's your.
That's really.
So we see this, during this time period that we're discussing for the Ohio Republican Party, were you doing any other work other than the Claremont County campaign work?
No, sir.
And then this example, pay stub, shows a full 80 hours. Were you working full-time on this?
Yeah, it was a pretty all day just trying to get, because they always had to go about 1,000 doors a week, and it was, especially in more rural areas, it takes quite a while to door knock, so.
So you were basically a full.
Yeah, I would say, yeah, it was.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Nothing further from me. Thank you, Mr. Nancy.
Thank you.
Now we're down to my last
I
one.
just wanted to call
Fairway,
Caraway.
yeah.
He's on his way, because I texted him a while ago,
Okay.
just to say, come on over, and be prepared. I don't know whether he's here yet, but I texted him a few minutes ago. So you gotta take.
No, that's tomorrow.
Well, that's some more.
Today, if I don't get to this house, then my son will not be able to play baseball.
So.
You gotta make it.
Oh, yeah.
I know that sounds minuscule, but.
That's blank. That's like, that's
I
like.
have to get my shares cut out. From pound to here.
So
for those of us on board,
Is like 1 minutes with zero traffic, like, so really a half an hour. This time of day, so, and then from there to Hilliard's.
All baseball.
Yeah, it's all-
You know, you guys, when you look at the account,
People, they're just separately on school, this league is based on a double in. A youth.
I had a couple of sons, which now he's.
And then he plays in the weekend. Big league.
That's, okay, is that still the, John?
Yeah.
It's,
Briggs.
Briggs and Briggs and John and the Silver.
Yeah, they're both.
They're still, they are.
Well,
Oh,
Oh,
okay. Well, they had, when I,
That's the problem.
my old son's played there, and that's where they say it's just. They just want to spend my younger son. So, well, that's all, but it's for all. They would know. Well, playing with summer, and they were in Richfield also, at Ohio State.
Oh, yeah.
West Campus.
Just inside.
They had them going. And they all agents, I mean.
Those like not.
But they're not West Campus. And I was wondering if they were still doing it.
They do it on Sunday.
She said no. And I was like. Yeah,
When they.
You think I have time to go get a water?
absolutely, yes.
Okay.
Oh, there's waters over here.
Water all there.
When they have more team. And then more part of it. As each year, this fall, there
Not my place anymore.
times is on order. Come over there, we can have one.
Like, just. Yes. I gave it, I mean, I had great campaigns. It was wonderful, but you know, it's changing.
Everything up.
And it's not the way. Oh, yeah.
She's gonna play next year, but that was exactly.
Like, her skills always are great. It's fine to be. There's always a great. But they were the way they did. No. So now it's only has one relationship with United Way, and also they're in Canada, United States. Whereas like, we're the only ones. Whatever. Like UPS went to a third party, like to process. We split. Give it to whoever they want. You don't realize the power. So they give it direct, and they don't realize that it's in the wrong stuff.
And then he's starting you.
It's not a pass, like we vet the agency, and there's like very things. So it's just sad to see. It's just, things are changing and.
That's like they were going dropping. We want to come, we get a couple of trail ball.
I just spoke to two development
And then we.
professionals on coursework, just to train them so they can support our affiliates across the country. But we're all scrappers that fast, so if we have any advice
It was like 5
to
seconds.
pay forward.
I know, and it was like.
I
And
mean,
then,
Like
so
I
I
took
have to did that,
the.
you're like.
I'm not sure where they're taking it.
There's another one that's really good. It's got great information.
Southern
Picture it. I'll have to look and see.
3 hour drive.
It's a cheap.
Well, then it's like 5
But
minutes.
the quality of the course.
So it's like a.
Tonight, the downside is that you should.
It's like a 3 hour, the first session was like 3 hours.
Look,
Yeah, I don't think they've done it.
So.
Might been out of
I think the 1 year.
It was very but it was one thing to find that gave you a certification. So
They try to make them all.
yeah, but then my computer just died. So I'm trying to charge it up and then maybe. So can we have just a group?
We literally have, it's 3:24.
Don't worry.
So we have until 3:59, so.
Just
So we can go.
I do, thank you.
Hi, Mr. Fairway, you're doing well. Thank you for being here. Can you describe for the commission members your role in the 2020 primary?
So I was tasked with assisting candidates south of 70, so the entire southern part of Ohio. Mostly with grassroots, on the ground support, candidate phone calls, that kind of thing.
So which candidates specifically did you work with?
I cannot remember, there were many. Specifically, obviously Representative Schmidt was one of them.
Okay, so that blue binder there, by the way, is divots. So I point to so Representative Schmidt is one of them. And I assume Alan Freeman as well.
Correct,
So Schmidt and Freeman.
correct.
Who else?
There were multiple across the map. 2020 happened to be a what I call a big term limit year, so there were a lot of open seats. And it would be unfair for me to just start guessing members and candidates in 2020. I-70 South is a pretty large geographic territory.
Okay, so what candidates were at the same level of support that you were giving to Alan Freeman and James Schmidt.
They were the primary focuses, obviously. As previously, I believe I testified that those were certainly very hot races that year.
Okay, so if you look at the book that I put there on exhibit number. Exhibit. It's in the section that says 723. Notice that there's little,
I just need a page number, Mr. Hicks.
so you have to flip first with the tab that says 723. And then in that page 31. Which is exhibit J. There's page 31 at the bottom, there's different numbers. Exhibit J. Either page 31 or exhibit J, that's copy of the transcript.
Is it this one?
Copy of the transcript. See there's little fluid page numbers at the bottom of the pages?
I do.
Page 31.
Okay. Okay,
Okay, so you see that on the left side of the page. It says towards the bottom, question, this is the transcript of your testimony on October 28, 2021. From the commission. It says at the bottom, you live in Adams, see where it says question, you live
I
in
do.
Adams?
yes,
Okay, right, I live in Claremont, so you and I both know you live in Adams, and I live in Claremont. And then it said, what races were you involved with under with JPL? And your answer then was just Alan Freeman and Gene Schmidt. Is your answer different today?
well, so if you go to the other page 54 at the top, it says, my answer was, and so I was to consult on races south of 70. You said, okay. I said Interstate 70. What races? I certainly, I can't say with certainty all of the races, which I believe is what I just testified to a few moments ago, but certainly Alan Freeman and Gene Schmidt were primary focus.
If you were, okay, so if you were given an estimate of how much of your time you spent on those two campaigns, what would you say?
I'd say 50%.
50, okay. And at the time, who were you being compensated for?
Well, my company, Churn Creek Strategies, small company, just me, obviously, contracted some others to do work for me. But we were paid by JPL and Associates.
Okay. Were you ever paid or under contract from Constant Content?
No, there were a couple of instances in which I had submitted for reimbursement, my company through Constant Content. But I'm not aware of any consistent payments from Constant Content.
And when you say reimbursement, you and I might remember that, as I recall, is things like for printing invoices and other little incidental invoices
Correct.
that you would do, but that is the kind of thing that is it correct to say you were told on those expense reimbursements to submit an invoice to Constant Content to be paid back?
That is correct.
But your arrangement was not personal, but Churn Creek Consulting was a contractor under JPL and Associates.
Correct.
Who hired you?
Jeff Longstreth. I had little interaction with him, so my primary point of contact was Megan Fitzmartin.
Okay, and what do you recall you were compensated, like how much?
I think it was between 4 and 5, maybe 6,000 a month. I'm just not sure.
Okay, so back on page, which the bottom page, number 33, your prior testimony was 4,000 to 5,000 a month. You just said 4, 5, or 6,000 a month. You wasn't certain then, or you?
Yeah, that if that's what I testified, I'm sure that's fine. Inflation.
Okay, all right, and then, your work. Who did you work with additionally on those campaigns? on a more local basis? I know you've already said Megan Fitzmartin, but she didn't, just to be clear, let me ask you a question to be clear. Megan Fitzmartin, and did she have any role in local things like door knocking, campaign management?
Not that I can recall.
Okay, so what would you describe her role in the organization versus yours?
Well, she was more, took care of the creative, you know, mail, you know, the main strategy. I was there to provide on the ground resources as far as, you know, hey, are you hitting enough doors? Are you doing X, Y, Z? You know, during the campaign, respectfully, I sometimes call it a candidate sitting. You know, you have to keep them on task and there's a lot to do, so.
Okay. So,
Watch it.
what kind of off task things do you have? So in this case, between the two candidates, how much time of those two? You said you thought you spent about 50% of your time on Gene Schmidt and Alan Freeman combined.
Mhm.
Okay, the of that time, about how much of that was Gene Schmidt versus how much was Alan Freeman? Would you guess? Your best guess.
I really don't want to guess. I'm just going to say 50-50. You know, I would say that those both were competitive races, obviously, and so with the fog of having run over 100 campaigns since then, I simply can't remember.
Okay. Did anybody ask you about to give, I just asked you for an estimate of how much time, did anybody ever, other than me right now or before, ask you for an estimate of how much time you were spending with each candidate?
No.
Beyond, you said the other, well, before I just said that, you said 50% of your time on Gene Schmidt now and Freeman. I was gonna say the other 50% on other candidates, but were you doing other paid activities like for other companies, different things other than your constant content work?
Yeah, I had a few county contracts that year. I don't remember who, and there were multiple counties. I remember a few of them, but there were county races, obviously, that I was consulting on as well.
Okay, did the, so when you said 50%, was that 50% of your total time? Or 50% of the time you spent working with constant content was spent on it?
I don't know.
Let me ask you a different way, but of course, we're later. How much during that time period, what would be your estimate of how much time was constant content time? Or JPL and Associates, I guess it's JPL and Associates who hired you versus other activities?
North of 50%, sir.
Okay, so north of half of all your time was being spent doing work for JPL, who had contracted Turner Creek Strategies, not you individually, like your LLC.
Correct.
To do that work. Okay. Who else did you work with locally that was doing work for either candidate Schmidt or candidate Freeman?
As far as party operatives or
Compensated work, you know, tied in with constant content or JPL.
I certainly know that RJ Mancini was being compensated. There was another young man I know we discussed him was Luke Householder. I do not know with certainty if he was compensated or not.
Okay. It came up before, but did you and I ever talk about Luke Householder and his stay of the Days Inn in Claremont County?
I do remember you and I having a discussion. However, there was an instance last time when you said I said something, and on the drive home that day I was going through my mind, and I don't think what you said was entirely accurate, but so I'm going to be just.
Hey, what
with
was
you.
your role with Luke's Householder's housing arrangements or anything like that?
I did look for a couple of hotels for him, but as I testified in 2021, or I'm sorry, I don't know what it was, whatever time I was here last.
Yeah.
I did not book the hotel.
Okay, and you think that I represented that you did? I may have, I'm just trying to, that was,
Mr. Hicks, I don't remember. I
okay.
really don't.
Did, were you aware of me posting a video of Luke Householder coming out to his truck at that?
Vaguely.
Okay, did you tell me at the time that, you know, the hotel, that's a well-known sort of flea bag hotel, that after you saw that, it was important to get him moved to a better motel than that? You don't remember that?
I'm sorry, I don't.
Okay. Did you have any, when it related to invoices going to candidates from Constant Content or JPL and Associates, did you have any role in that?
Repeat that again, please.
When it comes to invoices going to candidates, like the Schmidt for Ohio or
Okay.
something like that, did you have any role in invoicing or any billing of the candidates?
No.
Did you discuss their invoices with them when they received them?
Well, from time to time, certainly, I remember speaking with, another candidate about their invoice. I don't remember a specific instance of Representative Schmidt of talking about her invoice, as it relates to the primary of 2020 at that time. Talked about it since then, but not at that time.
When you say not at that time,
I did not talk to her about her invoice at that time
what's at that time?
in 2020.
In 2020, okay. So when did you talk to her about the invoice?
I believe it was after you had filed, this matter before the commission, is when I spoke to her about it.
And, do you remember any detail of the conversation?
Certainly that our position was that she had followed the law, Ohio campaign finance law. And that, we would obviously go through the commission process and, hopefully she would be exonerated.
Did, you, do you believe that there was an obligation on her part, for example, to show RJ Mancini as an in-kind contribution?
If Mr. Mancini did work, measurable, what I would call measurable work for a campaign, there is an obligation to report that. However, she would have needed to have received an in-kind contribution, and this isn't a barrier, sand, head in the sand kind of thing. She would have needed to receive an in-kind amount from either HRCC or the Ohio Republican Party. In looking at her in-kind contributions or her statements filed online since then, there was nothing reflected, but I am more than confident that had she have given those numbers that she would have if the number was measurable.
So if I were running some office, and my neighbor gave me $1,000 worth of posts for putting signs to the ground, but never gave me an invoice, am I responsible for reporting that as an in-kind contribution?
You are responsible for trying to ascertain what that amount was, certainly, but in this particular case, Representative Schmidt paid everything and reflected everything that was given to her in the primary of 2020 and the general of 2020. And I don't know for certain that Representative Schmidt even necessarily knew that Mr. Mancini had went to an event or had hit on a couple of doors for her, because her door work was primarily done by her, nearly exclusively.
So I filed my complaint on, I believe, 8/6/21. And you said you did not talk to her about any of this before that, but after my complaint, you talked to her about it. Did you believe that any steps should be taken to ascertain the amount, or what steps are you aware of taking to ascertain the amount once you became aware that there could possibly be an amount?
I do not recall us discussing what steps should be taken, because it was Representative Schmidt's position at that time, my position, and remains today, that her campaign followed the law. And so there, in my opinion, there would have been no need to revise something that didn't need revising.
So did her campaign ever show an in-kind contribution for RJ Mancini anywhere?
I'm sure you know them better than I do. I don't remember ever seeing an in-kind for Mr. Mancini if his work was measurable.
Define measurable.
Did he go to an event for a half hour? How do you want to expense that out? Or did he work on doors for 2 hours for Representative Schmidt and then 8 hours for Mr. Freeman? I'm not sure how you quantify that number. And if she would have put a number, there's a chance that she would be before this commission with the very same thing as you as the complainant. That, well, you didn't, the number's still not right.
Okay, so can you, well, look at another, look at another exhibit. And it's gonna be in the 5-4 section.
Is it the
A
blue,
complainant exhibits.
is it the blue book?
Yeah, okay, it's the tab that says, at the tab that says 5-4. It's gonna be in that section. Hopefully I remember it correctly.
Okay,
Okay, and then it's gonna be on that section, part of my, complaint,
what is the blue page number?
starts on 33.
Okay,
So you've seen the complaint before now?
I don't specifically remember seeing it, but I'm sure I looked at it.
Okay. Do you see, exhibit 3 in there? So it's exhibit 6. Which
Okay,
is on page 33, but within it, it's confusing because there's sub exhibits.
Okay.
Exhibit 3 is page 39.
yes,
The bottom is at page 39. So you familiar with those emails?
I believe I provided these to you as part of the discovery.
I think RJ Mancini provided them.
Okay,
So, you know, and it's this, not you giving some direction to RJ Mancini related to this.
is there a question?
Yes, is this you giving direction?
You mumbled, I couldn't understand what you were saying.
Is this, are these emails showing you giving directions to RJ Mancini relating to the Schmidt campaign?
This is exhibit 3 on the email sent Tuesday, February 11th.
Yes.
It says, RJ, I am adding you on Gene's FB page, which would mean Facebook. I don't necessarily see direction there. There was no actionable item, but certainly I placed him on the Facebook page.
Did you add other people on the Facebook page?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, what about the one below it about taking a picture? Make sure we have video recording.
I didn't send that. It says from Tommy Wall.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes,
You're right. So is that, but that Tommy Rolfe giving RJ Mancini direction?
you would have to ask Tommy Rolfe that. I'm not going to interpret his words.
Okay, so, do you remember introducing me to RJ Mancini and, Luke Householder at a political event at RJ's cinema?
I have no reason to contest.
Well, I'm not asking you to contest, I'm just asking you to remember, if you don't remember that.
I don't.
You don't remember, okay. What do you think? You said, what was the word you said to describe? Yeah, it wasn't significant activity, but you know, if, or, you know, whether RJ Mancini did significant activity or whatever, what was the word you used? Measurable activity? What would you define as measurable activity?
It would vary, in my opinion. In fairness, measurable is at times a matter of opinion between one person or the other. I would say measurable would be spending a significant amount of time on a project, making an impact, moving the needle, so to speak.
So you're familiar with my wife, right? You know my wife.
I know of her. I think I've worked with your wife a time or two, but it's been a long time.
Have you had my wife read political mailer?
I have.
Okay, so I don't have any, not that we don't have good communication, but do you recall, was there an hourly amount associated with those mailers
I don't.
that you typically pay?
She just sent me an invoice on a per project basis, I thought, but
Okay,
maybe she rolled her hourly rate into a per project. I wasn't sure.
okay. So let's say that I said, I'll pay the invoice, whatever it was. I'm sure it wasn't huge, you know. Would that then cause you to think that an in-kind contribution needs to be reported because somebody other than the candidate paid the invoice?
Yes,
Okay, would it matter if the invoice was $100 versus $200 versus about $10,000? Whether it needed to be reported?
probably not.
Okay, so when, let's go look at it. In page 33 in the 5.4 section, it's still exhibit 6, kind of hovering around the same exhibit. And if you go forward,
It's been I just want to know,
Oh.
to 15 minutes.
okay,
I'm not trying to rush you, but
okay.
yeah, thank
So
you.
so that, Steve, it's page 36 within there, it's page 36 in the book you're looking at. So for the commission, if you have gone with my page numbers on it, page 36, but it is the 5.4 exhibits that from page 36.
Yes.
So you see the top part of that, it's the one that's side printed.
Yes, I see it.
Okay, so that is RJ Mancini being compensated by the Ohio Republican Party.
Okay.
Okay. So you said you believe that RJ Mancini spent the vast majority of his time working for Alan Freeman. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So then you would believe that the vast majority of this payment being made to him should have been reported by Alan Freeman?
Correct.
Okay. So if, let's say 10% of it, that small amount, if you add it up, it's about, let's say $7,000 approximately. If you look at 2,300, 2,286, but $7,000, that 10%, $7,000 would be $700, correct?
Sure. I
So-
concur.
So if he spent 10%, if you would, then you would think that Alan, let's say that was 7,000 even, it's not quite 7,000 even. But that 6,300 of it should have been in-kinded by Alan Freeman, but 700 of it should have been in-kinded by Ms. Schmidt.
If he did work for Schmidt for Ohio, I think I testified this earlier, Mr. Hicks, it should have been reported as an in-kind. In my pretty vast political experience, there is an obligation of the entity who is paying the manager to report that number. And I am confident that with my experience dealing with the Schmidt for Ohio campaign, that number would have been provided, it would have been reflected on the report. And as far as the amount, I'm not sure. I don't know that anyone could have, in politics, we don't do timesheets or anything like that. That's just doesn't happen. So I'm not sure how you would arrive at a number, but.
Do you think that the law says that unless there was a invoice or something provided to the candidate, that they have no obligation to report it?
I'm sorry, the statute.
You just said that.
Yeah.
You made it sound like there was an obligation of somebody. to
There's an
report it.
obligation to report. There's an obligation to report always. In my last job, I had an obligation as the caucus director to report the numbers to the candidates. In fact, take a look at Representative Schmidt's campaign finance report, you will see different things that have been reported as in kind. That's how it is supposed to work. So.
Okay, so, but I just want to make clear, you think that legally, that unless somebody provides you with, say, a piece of paper with what you're supposed to in-kind, that the candidate has no obligation to in-kind anything?
The candidate has an obligation to file a complete and accurate statement to the best of their ability. In this particular case, Representative Schmidt paid and filed everything that was sent to her or communicated with her. So I don't know what to tell you.
So when I filed a complaint on 8/6/21 that said that the amounts were not properly in-kinded, and then by your own testimony, you spoke with Ms. Schmidt about that. Not before that, but after my complaint, you talked about it. Did either you or Ms. Schmidt go to RJ Mancini Or did you yourself make any effort to break down your time for what was time spent on which campaign?
I would have made no effort to break down my time for Representative Schmidt. As you know, a general contractor, general political consultant. It is extremely typical. I understand, I know you ran, or helped with the US Senate race. I know you did some consulting work for Rick Brinkman. So maybe you don't have a lot of experience with this, but you have a team in place and there are markups on virtually everything. Sometimes a lot, sometimes a little. So there would have been absolutely no reason for Representative Schmidt to parse out my hourly or Ms. Fitzmartin or anyone else involved with JPL and Associates.
So, but let's talk about RJ Mancini.
Okay,
So he was only paid $7,000. He by his own testimony, and I think probably by your testimony, only worked with 2 candidates. Okay, he gave here sort of a 90-10 split of the time. Did you ever make any effort or tell Ms. Schmidt that she should try to ascertain what should be in-kinded from RJ Mancini?
I did not.
Okay, so your, do candidates not connected with the caucus, would you describe what your, this kind of team approach and is a unique benefit to candidates that are connected with the caucus? That's not afforded to candidates that aren't, like somebody not endorsed.
I need a question.
So you have endorsed candidates and not endorsed candidates. If I were running against Ms. Schmidt and I was a not endorsed candidates, I have to go hire all these people myself, do this, and I would have real billing for what they, when you're their endorsed candidate, they end up in this kind of team model where it's blurry what's being reported on which finance report. Is that the fair description of what happens, the difference between being endorsed and not endorsed?
I would not agree with that assertion.
So what is,
Partly because I'm having trouble figuring out what you're trying to ask me.
okay? How can I help you to better understand?
Ask a clear and concise question, Mr. Hicks.
Okay, so the people who ran against Gene Schmidt and against Alan Freeman?
There was a Joe Blevins and it's a Union Town trustee now, Joe Dills.
Okay. What about Alan Freeman? Who ran against Alan Freeman?
Oh, Nick Owens and Adam Bird.
Okay. So was it kind of a benefit to being endorsed by the speaker to have the support infrastructure that you provided and Megan Fitzmartin provided that was not a benefit to people who were not endorsed by the speaker?
Yes,
Okay. Whereas Gene Schmidt and Alan Freeman endorsed by the speaker.
yes,
Were they endorsed by the Ohio Republican Party?
no,
Okay, so RJ Mancini, were you aware that he was being compensated by the Ohio Republican Party?
not at that time. I certainly am now. Mr. Mancini would have had most likely electronic walkbooks. And as I recall, it was the ticket that year, so it would have been, President Trump, even though it was primary, it would have been President Trump if there were any judicials, and then lower would have been a state house candidate.
Okay, so that walkbook, is that a product of the HRCC or a product of the ORP?
I'm not sure who cuts, or I'm not sure who cut the walkbooks at the time. I may have known, but I don't remember now.
Okay, and so I'm gonna, just for sake of time. So I may have some more questions for him, but I don't wanna step away from asking him questions, but we're kind of at the end of the time. If I step away, then it would start his cross. So unless he's gonna have no cross, I would request that we just finish here for now and then come back while I would still have a chance to ask him some more questions.
We'd like to start tomorrow at 9.
I
Miss-
can't
Miss-
make it.
Yeah, reason
My
we're having it
husband
today.
passed away. I have obligations. I cannot make it tomorrow. I am starving.
Let me speak. At least we communicated to Mr. Richter that she was not available tomorrow. That's why it was moved up until today. In the interim period, her husband of 47 years has passed away. And as you know from this hearing, he was her treasurer and would have been a witness actually in this case had that not happened. So at least I think I can be here perhaps and cross-examine Mr.
I need to be here.
Okay, well, let's see.
So just as a clarification, I was told when this all came down that we were gonna do it. Because they had an extra day, so it should be definitely wrapped up today and tomorrow. That's what I was told when Mr. Ritter came to me, not that we were gonna only do it today.
Yeah, you know, one suggestion is that there's
No doubt.
Schmidt may be around, let's say, for a period of time. I don't remember what that was. She was early.
I can't be here from 9 to 11. I can't leave at 6 o'clock in the morning.
I mean, I appreciate you want to be around and present, Ms. Schmidt, but is it necessary? Is it necessary for your client to be here for us to conclude?
Excuse me, it's necessary for me in all fairness.
If she wants to be here, I'm not quite sure.
Not be here. I cannot be here on Friday either. Let's pick another day. I wish I could. I am all alone. I have a dog at home I have to take care of. I can't get anybody to take care of it tomorrow, period. I have other obligations. I don't know what you want me to do. I don't have my husband anymore to help me.
My cross-examination of the current witness would be minimal for what that's worth.
Next meeting's the commissioner, October 12th, October 26th. Correct. November 2nd.
For the record, I prefer it because I adjusted my schedule based on the 2-day thing that you told me we were gonna do, so I would prefer to get this done as it was gonna be scheduled. So then, because this is also holding up other hearings.
Understand. As well.
As it is that my husband died, I want to break down.
And Madam Chair, I mean, I understand where Mr. Hicks is, but obviously we have mitigating circumstances here for Representative Schmidt. I believe when these things were set, unfortunately, her husband had not passed away. I think that's a big burden, and I think we should set another date. It's my opinion.
Hardly agree, and all due respect to Mr. Hicks, there are things that are more important than this hearing, and I'm sorry, very sorry for your loss. And, I mean, I think it's a pretty clear we pick another date that will work for all.
Makes sense to me as well. So
I mean, this doesn't have to be right this second, right? We can figure out afterwards.
yeah. Shall we conclude? I'll have a conversation with Mr. O'Brien and Mr. Hicks. We can figure it out over the next couple of meetings.
Would there be any way that we could agree on a date right now so that we can get this?
Maybe
That's what
if
it's
you and
saying,
Mr. O'Brien talk, yes.
Yeah. We
Yeah.
like today, yes, you're able to have that conversation. Yeah,
Yeah, I think we can among ourselves with Mr. Richter.
We do that before we leave.
yes,
Okay,
yeah,
okay,
that's what,
okay.
that's what Mr. Rivers is suggesting. Okay, at this time, let's conclude this meeting. Do I have a motion to adjourn? So,
So
second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes with a vote of 7-0, 1-5. Yeah.
You don't.
What's your-
Is that what the line?
Thanks.
No, figure it out.
I'm gonna check that. Everyone has one 4 ounce bottle of milk, so I've got a split. Before she starts. Tomorrow. 10, oh, yeah. I get an extra half. Right, that's exciting news for those of us who start in the very early.
He asked me about that. I wanted to know. They had to spend it. Yeah.
I know,
Here, I just had a.
Tomorrow, so you're
You're for about 4 days.
You're not expensive.
Oh, if he's, I, he was qualified